Okay, what you want. What can I say about this one? This was a cool writing experience. It was Tim and Terry and I camped out at my place in New York for about a month, and we were just hammering it out in my living room. Like, I was at the piano, they were working on the riff in the verse, and I just started playing along, and that one kind of came together really fast. Like, we all knew we were onto something really cool, and we're getting really excited about it. It's funny, we had two studios going, one in the living room and one up on the top level. So I could be working on lyrics and stuff while they were kind of working on the music, and then we'd come visit each other and play around. And I remember being like a little bit embarrassed when I wrote the verse lyrics and melody, just the melody even. I had to do what you want, that part. I was like, oh man, they're gonna make fun of me and think that I'm Janet Jackson or something, but screw it, I'm gonna show it to them anyway. And they were like, no, that's really cool, the hook is what's cool about it. I'm so glad they feel that way because it's really fun to sing. Made of Stone. This is one of the oldest songs. This is something that was from that sort of more electronic phase that I was going through a couple years ago. I love this one. I feel like it's strong and defiant and badass, and it only got better when the band started really being involved in it and writing that guitar part and everything about it. I feel like it popped up in a big way when the guys got involved, but I've always loved that one. I think it has a really cool, dark, sexy quality. The song for a long time was called Purple, so we're all still getting used to calling it The Change. Yeah, this song came together with the band when we were at pre-production. Just really writing as a band. This is a cool story. We lived in 2 apartments in Nashville when we were making the record for like 6 months, because we were writing down there and then recording and blah, blah, blah. Tim and I were in one apartment, and Will and Troy and Terry were in the other apartment, and we wanted to work on some ideas, both of us separately, and then bring things to the table in the morning and try to write a new song. And I was like, let's take the same tuning guitar home so that maybe, if we both come up with some cool ideas, it'll work together. Who knows, at least we'll be in the same key. So we did, and Tim and I were working on something really cool and got this neat thing going, which was really the verse, and I came up with the chorus melody idea and stuff. And we came in the next day, and the other guys had this really neat guitar part, and weirdly enough, that guitar part they were working on and the verse that we had that we were so into totally worked together, and it's like these 2 contrasting neat guitar parts that work together. I mean, they tweaked them a little bit to make it work right, but it was a cool, happy accident there. My heart is broken. Let's see, this was another one from that session when we wrote What You Want. Actually, the song, at first, we were jamming, Tim and Terry and I actually was playing that piano part on the harp because it was a lot slower and a little bit easier. And then it just got faster and faster at pre-production with the band. And when we got into recording it, I was like, cool, get at the harp. And I was like, nah, this is not possible anymore. It's way fast. So it's a piano part. Actually, I think it sounds better as a piano part. It's more prominent. It's a stronger instrument, so you're hearing it a little bit more. I love that song. It's definitely one of the more passionate tracks on the album, and I hope that that's the second single. I think it might be. This is one that evolved over time too. We had the start for it from one session a few months before, and it wasn't finished, and then we worked on it with the band, and it really grew into something. This is a cool song that we all really love. I think as a group, it's one of our favorites on the record, and to play too. It's a really fun song to play. It's about loss, but not so much mourning for the dead as much as committing yourself to being together again in another life. Okay, Erase This used to be called Vanilla. Also, we're getting used to that name. This was one of the very last ones to finish. I was writing lyrics throughout the recording process. I'd always have homework at night. I'd be working in the studio and going for it, and I'd be going home and finishing lyrics to songs before we got there, which was crazy. I'm not really like that. There's always a little bit of writing going on in the studio, but for me, I usually have the songs really mapped out vocally before we go in. But since we did so much writing in that pre-production phase, I had a lot of lyrics to write. The lyrics take me the longest. We'll come up with the music and the melodies, but then I have to really spend some serious deep thinking time alone. I would say this is the most intimate song on the album. Really, it was from that kind of hard time in 2010 where I felt lost and sort of like I lost my vision for a second. And it's cool because the song is sort of almost an apology to the fans, like, for being gone. It's like here's how it went. Like, I needed to run away, but I miss this. Like, and it's hard and it's painful sometimes, and it's this big, giant, massive thing, but it's me and it's my heart and it's our relationship, and yeah, I want it back. Sick. Okay. This is a song that was one of the first one we came up with when we had like a band jam session about a year ago, and I don't know, we were really excited about it right away. Sometimes you get in a room with a group of people and try to write a song together and it just doesn't work. You know, the more brains you get going, sometimes the more disjointed it becomes and the more directions start getting pulled apart. This was a really cool moment because I felt like we discovered that we were on the same page. And as this lineup, this band, we really can write together that way, and that was really exciting for me because, again, that's not what I'm used to, and that's not what I've done the most in my life. For this band, it's usually been very private, kind of one-on-one or alone kind of thing. Mostly one-on-one with somebody. I'm not writing those guitar parts or anything. Anyway, so when we wrote "Sick," it was like an experiment that we didn't know if it would work or not. And I remember we were all just really excited at the end of it because we love that song. But it was just, for me, I think of it like that was the moment we were like, yeah, we can do this. It's gonna be fun. The End of the Dream is just about life, and the end of the dream is death. You know, it's about the journey, and it's about, again, this recurring theme of not being afraid and living while you're alive because it doesn't last forever. I think that's something that comes out a lot in our music because it's something that I deeply feel. It's funny though, because I'm always telling it to myself. It's not like you learn something and then just go, yeah, totally. You have to make a constant effort to remind yourself of things that you believe in, you know? So I feel like, yeah, that theme about not being afraid and life doesn't last forever, that comes out a lot. And yeah, that song's about that. Oceans is, I think, a really cool song with some taste of a new direction, but at the same time, it totally claims that Evanescence feeling. It's got a big, cool, synthetic keyboard, you know, Moog, plus we used like 5 keyboards to make that sound. I really like that song because I feel like it's different sounding, and I kind of have fallen in love with a lot of old analog gear the last couple of years, so, you know, it was fun to get to use those things. Yeah, I just think it's a big, epic, fun song out of all of our songs. That was one of the 4 that we chose to do live when we just had a couple of shows recently, and I think it went pretty good. I liked it. It's fun to play. Never Go Back was actually inspired by the earthquakes and tsunami in Japan. While we were writing a bunch of music at pre-production, that was going on, and I just remember, you know, we were just watching the news and looking at all these pictures on the internet, and just like, I was just inspired and feeling a lot of feelings, just of empathy and sympathy, and just sort of like, wow, what would that be like, you know? Putting myself in the situation in my head, sort of accidentally, I guess, you know, when I do the thing where I go home and do my homework and work on the lyrics, I just sort of was writing without thinking about why, and after a minute I was like, oh, okay, like, I'm thinking about Japan and I'm singing about Japan, like, why not just let this song be that story? So it's about losing everything, you know, and about life beyond your control. Swimming Home is definitely the truest picture of that sort of electronic, very different phase that I was going through for a little bit. I love the song. I think that it expresses a little bit of a new emotion for me, for Evanescence, because it's sad. It's goodbye. It's sort of from the other side of the song before. It's like from the person's perspective that's moving on into the next life. but it's peaceful. It's an acceptance of that giant crazy thing that fascinates me, that I wonder about and think about, and it's like life and death and what comes after, you know, and what does it all mean? So it's that acceptance and peaceful feeling, like the calm after the storm.